Hello, legends and super legends. Today, we're returning to Storytime with Veloharmony. Upon the requests that I've gotten, especially from the super users, the Storytime videos are going to be inserted into our cycle, probably every other week. I mean, we'll see how it goes, but we're basically going to pick up from where we left off. We're going to be talking about Raymond Poulidor today. The reason I'm going to continue with Poulidor is I was going to do copy, but Poulidor fits right in because we had just done Jacques Anquetil, and those of you who had not caught up on that, I will put the link here for the Anquetil video. And Poulidor's career intersects with Anquetil and Eddy Mercx tremendously, so it's perfect doing Poulidor here, and then we're going to go into Copy and Mercx and the other heroes from the golden years of cycling. So we're going to start right now. Raymond Poulidor was born 15 April 1936, nicknamed Poo-Poo, is a French former professional bicycle racer who rode for the Mercx bicycle company for his entire career. Poulidor was a rider of physical gifts that were fabulous, with wins in such prestigious races as Milan-San Remo, the Flèche Wallonne, the Grand Prix des Nations, Volta a España, and Paris-Nice. He started the Tour de France 14 times and finished 12 times. Despite his 3 second places and 5 third places, he never spent a single day in yellow. Not one. His career is littered with many tactical failures. He had the unfortunate misfortune to have his career intersect two of the post-war era's finest riders, Jacques Anquetil and, of course, the cannibal Eddy Mercx. Anquetil, wanting to be France's premier rider so that he could command high appearance fees, was obsessed with beating Poulidor. Yet, Poulidor, the eternal second, probably made more money than Anquetil. The seemingly ambitionless Poulidor was much more loved by the French racing fans. His career, although distinguished, despite coinciding with two great riders, Jacques Anquetil and Eddy Mercx, may have been the reason why Poulidor was favorite to the public. He was known as the eternal second because he never won the Tour de France, despite finishing in second place 3 times and in third place 5 times, including his final tour at the age of 40. Despite his consistency, he never once wore the yellow jersey in 14 tours, of which he completed 12. Raymond Poulidor was the son of Marshal and Maria Poulidor, small farmers outside the hamlet of Masberad-Mérignat, where the Creuse region east of Limoges meets the department of Haute-Vienne. He was born in the same year that his eventual director sportif, Antonin Magny, became world race champion. Poulidor began working on the farm where he remembered the soil was poor and we had to work hard. Farming incomes were poor. The need for working hands on the farm meant he left school at 14, even though he wanted to continue his studies. Local entertainment went little further than village fairs with coconut shees and sack races and competitions for bottles of homemade jam and inter-village cycle races. Poulidor rode on a bike given to him by André Marquet, who ran a cycle shop in nearby Saviat-Sauvige. Marquet took Poulidor to his first races by motorcycle. Success on a local level came quickly, and Poulidor added the money he won, which he said could be considerable at the time because the crowd put up prizes all through the race, to the family's income. He acquired his first racing license when he joined La Pédale Mâchoire at La Forêt Montboucher when he was 17. He came 7th in his first race at Saint-Mariel. He wanted to ride the local round of a national youth competition called the Premier Pas, Dunlop, meaning first step. It fell in the middle of harvest, however, and Poulidor could train only at night after 15 hours working in the fields. He raced for 3 years as an amateur, once even beating Louison Bobet. It was only when Poulidor was taken into the army for compulsory national service in 1955 that he first traveled in a train. Pierre Chanet, a French reporter who followed 49 Tours de France, drew the comparison with Poulidor's eventual rival Jacques Anquetil. By the time Poulidor first stepped into a train, Anquetil had already been to Helsinki, ridden the Olympic Games, won a medal for France, turned professional, and won the Grand Prix des Nations. Yet, there was less than 2 years between them. The army sent Poulidor to the war, then going on in Algeria, where he worked as a driver and he put on 12 kilos through lack of exercise. In 1960, he dedicated himself to cycling again and lost the weight in 1 month. He won his first race after army service by 6 minutes. When he then came second in the Grand Prix de Pirate-le-Château and won 80,000 francs, he calculated that he had won more in one race than he could have earned in 6 years on the farm. His farming background went before him. Whenever he won a prize, other riders would laugh. "Hey, Paulie," his original nickname. "Hey, Paulie can buy himself another cow." Poulidor referred to his background throughout his career, once remarking, "No race, however difficult, goes on as long as a harvest." Poulidor was discovered in 1959 by another French rider, Bernard Gautier, who said in the Belgian publication Coupe de Pédale, "It was me who brought Poulidor to Mercx, where like this bat and me, he spent all his career. In a criterium, I saw this unknown who was riding all around us. I saw him again in the Boudoir, and I spoke to him. He said he hadn't yet got a team, but that he was in talks. When I got home, I spoke straight away to Antonin Magny, who asked me, 'You're sure he rides well?' I said I was, and he contacted him and took him on." Poulidor said it happened at Pirate-le-Château near Saint-Léonard-de-Noblat. Gautier had just won his 4th Bordeaux-Paris, but that day I lapped him. I took 4 laps out of him, even though it was a very difficult circuit. He was very impressed. Magny offered Poulidor 25,000 old francs a month. Poulidor asked for 30,000. Magny countered that was more than he paid Gautier and Louis Privat and refused. Later, at where he had a rival for Anquetil, he conceded. Gautier's confidence in Poulidor was justified when in 1961 Poulidor won Milan-San Remo in his 2nd season as a professional. He started the race stung by press criticism of his tactical sense. He had attacked but had been caught by the bunch 5 kilometers from the finish of the Grand Prix de Nice. Poulidor got off to a bad start in Milan-San Remo when he punctured before halfway and lost 2 minutes. Magny insisted that he chase back to the race, which he did, catching up in time to ride the Capo Verde Hill with 20 kilometers to go. He recovered fast enough to counter an attack by Jean-Claude Annert, catching him with the Dutchman Ab Geldermans, who had won the previous year's Liège-Bastogne-Liège. Poulidor attacked and dropped Annette, then left Geldermans. He had a lead of 20 seconds at the summit. He stayed clear alone to win by 3 seconds from Rick van Leur of Belgium. Poulidor's rivalry with Jacques Anquetil is a legend in cycling. While a good climber, Poulidor had a hard time matching Anquetil in the individual time trial, often having victory snatched from him by losing time in time trial stages of the Tour de France. Poulidor's riding style was aggressive and attacking, whereas Anquetil preferred to control the race in the mountains and win time in the time trials. Poulidor became the darling of the French public to the ear of Anquetil. Poulidor's mid-France upbringing and his slow limousine speech also contrasted with Anquetil's northern background and sharper accent. Poulidor's face was deeply tanned and furrowed. Anquetil had high cheekbones, a smoother face, and brushed up blonde hair. Poulidor's best chance of defeating Anquetil came in the 1964 Tour de France, in the finish on the Puerto Dome. Anquetil rode beside Poulidor, but both were so exhausted that only in the last few hundred meters could Poulidor take nearly enough time to threaten Anquetil's yellow jersey. The tour organizer Jacques was behind the pair as they turned off the main road and climbed what police estimated as 500,000 spectators. Anquetil rode on the inside by the mountain wall, while Poulidor took the outer edge by the precipice. They could sometimes feel the others' hot gasps on their bare arms. At the end, Anquetil cracked after a battle of wills and legs so intense that at times they banged elbows. Poulidor says he was so tired that he has no memory of the two touching, although a photograph shows that they did. Of Anquetil, the veteran French reporter Pierre Chany wrote, "His face, until then purple, lost all its color. The sweat ran down in drops through the creases of his cheeks. Anquetil was only semi-conscious," he said. Poulidor gained time, but when they reached Paris, Anquetil still had a 55-second lead and won his last Tour de France thanks to the time trial on the final day. The significance of Anquetil-Poulidor socially. Anquetil unfailingly beat Poulidor in the Tour de France, and yet Poulidor remained the more popular rider. "The more unlucky I was, the more the public liked me and the more money I earned," he said. Divisions between fans became marked, by which two sociologists studying the impact of the Tour on French society say became emblematic of the France old and new. Research showed that more than 4,000 newspaper articles appeared about him in France in just 1974, and that no other writer had ever incited so many sociological investigations, so many university theses seeking to find the cause of his prodigious popularity. Poo-Poo, the nickname. Poulidor's original nickname was Poli. It was Émile Bisson of the daily newspaper L'Humanité who first wrote of Poo-Poo. The name was taken up throughout France, leading to headlines such as "Popularité in L'Équipe." A poupée is a doll, and the nickname hints at that and follows the French tradition of repeating the first syllable of a word in child speak. Poulidor has never liked the name, but accepts it. The end of the Anquetil era presented opportunities for Poulidor to finally win the Tour de France. This was not to be due to injuries in 1967 and 1968 and the arrival of the cannibal Eddy Mercx in 1969. Poulidor was no match for Mercx, although he offered much resistance. In the 1973 Tour, Poulidor almost lost his life on the descent from the Col de Porte-Aspet when he plunged into a ravine, taking a serious blow to the head and crawling out with the help of the race director Jacques Godet. Antonin Magny remained the manager of Poulidor's Mercx team until 1970, when he was replaced by another former rider, Louis Caput. Caput brought with him as deputy directeur sportif a man who described himself as a homeopath, Bernard Sainz. Sainz is known in cycling as Dr. Mabuse, after a pulp fiction character created by Norbert Jacques. Mabuse is a criminal mastermind who becomes rich through hypnotic powers. He plots to take over the world, but is foiled by the police. From his cell, he masterminds criminal plots by writing endless gibberish. Sainz recognizes the nickname and used it in the name of his autobiography. He is a former velodrome rider of national level who stopped racing after a fall and became involved in horse racing, where he was twice convicted of maltreating the horses. It was in horse racing where he turned unremarkable animals into champions that he acquired his nickname. He has been repeatedly investigated by police and has been convicted of illegally practicing medicine and incitement to doping. He claims that he only engages in homeopathic treatment, though whatever methods he engages in are effective, casting doubt on his claim. Louis Caput approached Edmond Mercier, the bicycle maker behind Poulidor's team, and asked to bring Sainz into the team management. Mercier agreed, said Sainz, because he was already treating Mercier for his own health problems. Mercier had also brought in the insurance company Gun as main sponsor. LeMond ended up riding for Gun in the early 90s. Greg LeMond. Gun, said Sainz, demanded that Poulidor be on the team photo even if all he did was train with the team at the start of the season. In 1971, Poulidor had decided against riding anymore. The tactic, Sainz said, was bluff to increase his motivation. In Paris-Nice, the first important stage of the season, Poulidor was 22 seconds behind Eddy Mercx on the morning of the last day. Poulidor attacked from the start, setting a speed record on the Col de la Torbie that stood for more than 10 years and won Paris-Nice by 2 seconds. Next year, he won Paris-Nice again and also the Quatrième de Dauphiné Libéré. Raymond Poulidor was the first rider to be tested for drugs in the Tour de France. Testers arrived at the Tour de France the first time in 1966 in Bordeaux, although only after word had spread that many riders had left their hotels. The first competitor they found was Poulidor. A few other riders were found, including Rick Van Looy, and some obliged and others refused. Next morning, the race left the city on the way to the Pyrenees and stopped in the suburb of Gradinan in the university area of La House. The riders climbed off and began walking, shouting protests in general and in particular abuse at the race doctor Pierre Dumas, whom some demanded should also take a test to see if he'd been drinking wine or taking aspirin to make his own job easier. Riders also criticized Poulidor for accepting to be tested. He dismissed their protests and stayed at the back of the strike. Other prominent riders, including Jacques Anquetil, were at the front. Poulidor said his indifference to the controls and the strike harmed his relations with fellow riders. After that, they did me no favors in the peloton. Poulidor has several times accepted that his career was handicapped by a lack of ambition and by the psychological domination of Jacques Anquetil. Poulidor said in an interview in 1992, "I knew straight away I was getting places everywhere. I got all the leaders' jerseys, but I used to lose them." Tonin Magny said to me, "Raymond, you're always in a daydream." And was that true? Were you distracted? It was true. I thought what was happening to me was already marvelous enough. I never thought of winning. Never ever did I get up in the morning with the idea of winning. On 25 January 1973, Poulidor was made a Chevalier de la Légion d'honneur. In 2003, the president, Jacques, increased the award. Poulidor also has a rose named after him, reflecting his love of gardening in general and roses in particular. He lives with his wife, Giselle, in Saint-Léonard de Noblat, east of Limoges, where he makes short trips on his mountain bike. Their daughter, Corinne, is married to the former world cyclocross champion and Tour of Flanders winner, Eddy van der Poel. His grandsons, David and Matthew, are also cyclists. Mathieu van der Poel became cyclocross world champion himself in a junior race in Coxige in 2012 and in 2013 in Louisville with the elite in 2015 in Tabor. Poulidor works in public relations for one of the subsidiary sponsors during the tour, has bicycles made under his name by the France Loire Company, and has appeared in television commercials aimed at older people. When he was asked about his longevity compared to fellow cyclists, Poulidor said he took things in moderation and did not overstretch himself. Even towards the end of his career, he was still a formidable rider. When Eddy Merckx attacked descending Mount Royal near the end of the 1974 Montreal World Road Championships, only Poulidor could escape with the Belgian. Poulidor held on and finished 2 seconds behind Merckx for second place. In 1976, at 40 years old, he was third in the Tour de France. He had a long professional career from 1960 to 1977. He was always riding for the bike maker Mercx.